Hi everyone, and welcome to another edition of Stump Jen. How are we all this lovely evening? Well, my lovely evening for me, great afternoon for you guys in the UK, and hopefully a beautiful morning to people in the US. I see we have Sandy, who I've been talking to in the chat. Hi Sandy, and in answer to your question, yeah, I'll take some pictures of the beaches around here where I'm moving when I've done moving. Yeah, there's wave action. I used to surf when I was younger, moving back to an area where I used to live, so yeah. And hi to Jeff and to Stool and to who else was in there? Kevin and Sammy's not there now because Sammy's gone to bed, but hi Sammy Jenkins. Oh, hi Art, how are you? Long time no see. So yeah, there was a couple of things I wanted to talk about before I bring any guests in. And to be fair, I can bring in about 3 guests when I do this stream because of the way I've got it set up. So if anybody wants to hop in, I'm already going to definitely have Jenny Morgan in here. But if anyone else wants to hop in, you're more than welcome to. But be aware, you'll probably end up having to answer questions when people ask them. But there was a couple of things I actually wanted to talk about. So one of the things was, it boggles my mind, people who want to make comments on Twitter about science, especially the religious, when they try to think they've got a gotcha in science when they obviously do not know what the fuck they are talking about. And an example of this came up today where a certain Christian tried to suggest that the double slit experiment proves God. Now, for those of you that don't know, the double slit experiment was an experiment originally done goddamn long time ago in the early 1800s by Thomas Young. And what it did was it demonstrated the wave behavior of light. So what you did was you got a single light source, you passed it through 2 slits in a piece of paper, and then you could see the interference pattern on a piece of paper that was further behind, or a piece of card, or however you built it out of. You could see the interfering wave pattern that you would expect to get if you were doing the same experiment, say with waves in water. So this showed that light was a wave. Now, of course, as science moved on and we did more experimentation, we were also able to show that under certain circumstances, light didn't do that. It didn't do the interference pattern. If you observed where the photons were in the light, you got you got a scattering of dots, or a singular dot if it was a singular photon, and not an interference pattern. So light can't be a wave, it has to be a particle. Okay. And then, of course, as we got further on in this, not only light, but electrons behaved like this. You could pass electrons through the slit, and they'd either show interference pattern like waves, or singular dots if you observed where the electron was, as though they're particles, because we can observe them. And this was always the case with everything, even up to protons and neutrons. So, hang on, matter and light and all fundamental particles, well, the larger all the fundamental particles basically have this property of, and of course a photon is a fundamental particle, of being both a particle and a wave. And this is the basis of quantum mechanics. Now, the Copenhagen interpretation of this is that everything exists in a layer of probability. So if you are passing a photon through a slit, it's got a probability of being in any given area. You only know where it is if you try to observe it. And the act of observing it collapses the equation down to being a definite. So instead of this randomness, you've got a definite by observing it, because we can't know... Well, if we observe a particle, we can't know everything about it. We can know where it is, or we can know its momentum. But we can't know both at the same time. Yeah, the Copenhagen. It's called the Copenhagen interpretation because that's where it was done, in Copenhagen. Some of the greatest physicists at the time, including Albert Einstein, were there. Einstein absolutely hated quantum mechanics because his direct comment about it was God doesn't roll dice. A quote that is often misquoted or misrepresented by Christians because it's not what he meant. What he meant is he didn't see the universe as being random. But the thing is, at the quantum level, as far as we can tell, the universe is incredibly random. But what happens is when you observe the item, you collapse the randomness of the equation and you can pick out the thing. You can pick out where the particle is. However, at that point, it stops behaving like a wave. And in every experiment, this happens. So the argument this Christian was trying to make was that, for there to actually be existent particles in the universe, there must be an overall observer who's observing the universe. Problem is, observation in physics doesn't necessarily mean what we think it means. What's meant in physics by observation is that... no, it wasn't S.J. Thompson, but it is the kind of crap that she says. I will agree with you there, Jeff. What it actually means is if there is anything within nature, if there's any interaction of a said particle, or that what we're assuming is the particle, with something else, that interaction collapses the probability of where it is down so that we know exactly where it is, or the universe basically knows exactly where it is. And this happens all the time in nature. You don't need an intelligent being looking at all the particles in the universe for them to coalesce into a given thing. As I've said before in these streams, we know from Einstein's equations that all matter is energy. So you can think of matter as just congealed energy. You know, you've got a lot of energy in one little spot, so you end up with matter. So the fact that everything is energy is a case of even though we're observing something down to being, this is a particle, we're still just observing the energy. The fact that the act of us or nature or in general anything observing, figuring out where this particle is, changes its behavior isn't something that we should be surprised by. Because you are going to have to observe something, you have to do something with it. To observe a photon, you basically have to bounce something else off it, another photon. And that's going to interfere with the way that photon interacts. So once we know where something is, yeah, of course it's going to change the ways that things interact. The nature by which we have to observe the universe and by the way the universe interacts with itself causes this to happen. But it is effectively random. So if we cannot be observing something, we don't know where anything is, pretty much. And the act of observing something changes it. It's pretty simple, but it sounds really complicated when you talk about the randomness of the universe. So yeah, this argument is just absolutely ridiculous because you don't need a god to be observing the universe. The universe does that sort of thing on its own. When I had Matt, not a doctor, on here, and we were talking about how the photons that we see come from the sun aren't, generally speaking, the ones that actually left the sun, because those photons in their journey here and journey through the atmosphere get absorbed by other atoms and then re-emitted. So, whilst effectively the photons travel the distance, they are new photons at each stage. So, I've derailed my train of thought because I'm bloody good at this. So effectively the universe is observing itself all the time by these interactions of particles, or these interactions of these things, and that gets rid of the randomness, the probability that we have in there. The other thing that this person was saying was basically they were trying to explain that particles were popping in and out of existence. Well, that's an entirely different aspect of quantum mechanics to do with virtual particles. And yes, that's got to do with the randomness of the quantum nature, but the actual atoms that make up our universe don't just pop in and out of existence all the time. Sure, they could technically quantum tunnel from one side of the universe to the other, but how often that would happen, it's not going to happen in your lifetime. Not with any great number of particles within your body anyway, and certainly not all of you. Yeah, I am often on my own, but I usually start that way and then things change. So, Jenny Morgan wanted to join me. So, I'm going to send Jenny a link. Yeah, what have I done to myself? There we are. Where is she? So when Jenny hops in here, she can have a bit of a talk about some of this stuff too with me. So yeah. How did Archimedes use mirrors to burn enemy ships? Okay. Oh, I like your question, Nerdy. If mass is energy, can I measure my mass in electron volts? Well, yeah, technically, yes, you can. I mean, when we work out the mass of subatomic particles, we actually measure the mass of particles in electron volts, and that's directly exchangeable to a degree of mass. So yes, you could measure yourself technically in electron volts. Yeah, I'm not a chemist, so I can't remember exactly what all the charge things on different particles are, but yeah, you'd have to figure out exactly what you were made of. At each stage, it's a lot easier to hop on a set of scales, trust me. Okay, so let's go back to the two Jennies. Oh, I like that. Yeah, the two Jennies. Thank you, Sammy. That is an awesome idea. Jenny and I have talked about doing some different shows together at different times. So hopefully, once I'm shifted, I'll have more time to actually put into doing proper production and shows and stuff like that with Jenny, and other people as well. Here she is. Give me a sec, Jen, and I will get you so people can actually see you. They can hear you, they just can't see you yet. What have I done? Moved the wrong person, that's what I did. Yeah.
StreamYard is starting to misbehave again for me. It's a similar problem as before. Except now it seems to self-correct. And the more people who who come in, the longer it takes to self-correct.
All right. Well, we've got a question. Got a question from Jeff here that I haven't answered yet. So, he asked, "How did Archimedes use mirrors to burn enemy ships?"
Well, wouldn't it have been some sort of a concave focusing mirror?
Yes, it was. Well, I mean, I don't know that there's actually evidence that he actually did burn the ships. I mean, to be honest, a concave focusing mirror and focusing the sun's light would take a really, really long time to burn a ship, and be a lot more efficient to shoot burning arrows or something like that at them, than try and burn it with a concave mirror. But he did design a device for doing this. So whether or not he actually did it is questionable. Because, I mean, he might have, for demonstration purposes, yeah, he might have got somebody to put a ship out in the ocean and built a mirror and showed, hey, we can burn a ship. But, I mean, practicality of it would never have been used in war. It's just not practical. But, apparently I'd be Ronnie Corbett. I don't object to that. So yeah, but yeah, a concave mirror. So
I didn't know that you were live. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. No, that's okay, Jen. I like I said to you, I was going to start off talking on my own and then bring you in. No, that's all right. That's okay. So yes. Yeah, I mean, it is true that Archimedes did hypothesize that it was possible, and he may have demonstrated a concave mirror to do it, but yeah, it never actually happened. Hang on, Spooky. What is this that you call love? Like, love is a chemical reaction within the brain that releases endorphins and makes you feel good. It's a drug. Love is basically a drug. Probably why we get withdrawal symptoms when we lose it. Hey, PJ! It's so good to see
everything we
you,
experience is just a chemical reaction.
It really is. I mean, we are basically organic robots. Yeah. Do the robot. but I mean, it's totally true. And that's why when you've got chemical imbalances in the brain, you can have depression and other issues, because we need those chemicals to be operating correctly. Intellectual iconoclasm. Wow, my brain did not want to say that. How do I know that I'm thinking? Well, nerdy. Let's talk about presuppositions. Now you're getting into philosophy, nerdy. But
go ahead, it's your show.
No, go for it, Jen. No, you've got an answer. Go for it.
How do you know you're thinking? If you're thinking about it, you're thinking. How do I think you're thinking? It's a self-answering question.
Well, it is, but I get where nerdy's going with it. It's like, I mean, that's like, it's the same thing as, how do you know this reality is real? Well, effectively, there is no way you can know that what you're experiencing, any of us are experiencing as reality is real, or even that anybody other than yourself exists, or even if you really exist, to be perfectly honest. So we have to presuppose that our reality is real. Once you've presupposed that your reality is real, then you can say, well, then you can go down the lines of I think, therefore I am. But you still have to presuppose the existence of our reality to do that. So, yeah, I mean, it really makes no difference. We have to live within this reality, regardless of whether it's real or a simulation or we're a brain in a vat, and we still have to obey its rules. Unless, of course, we can find some way around that. So, as it stands at the moment, it may as well be real, even if it isn't. So, you may as well presuppose that it is.
Microraptor, you say, I think, therefore I am. Who was that? Descartes? That's the classic argument that everybody struggles with in high school and all those other, pre-adolescent kind of thought patterns. It's what made me hate philosophy. Is that question?
Yeah.
It's so obvious that you're alive. You can make all the arguments you want about it, but it still comes down to, if I poke you, you're going to feel it. If I poke you with a knife, you're going to die.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, I mean, I get why philosophers ask these questions, but for the average person, and even as a scientist, it doesn't fucking matter. So, which is why I hate it when religious people try to make, like, I can't say his name now. When Sci-10 tries to make these stupid arguments about, how do you know you're a brain in a vat? Well, you don't know you're not a brain in a vat either, Sci. Nobody knows that. And you're just presupposing that your God tells you that you're not. So, we all have presuppositions, and, it's a lot easier just to have them and move on from that. And just accept that what we live in is real. And even if it's not, there's nothing we can do about it. Well, not at the moment. So, how do you know you were thinking? Yeah, we already did that, didn't we? Love is normal, chocolate is the drug. Yeah. No, well, love is still a chemical reaction within your brain. The endorphins that your body releases whilst it's in their internal drugs to you are still a drug that stimulates your brain to get those sense of euphoria. So, yeah, it's a chemical reaction whilst not an external drug. It's an internal... Endorphins are an internal drug. They're designed to give you happy feelies. That's why masturbation is so good.
The best chemical reaction there is.
Yeah. Oh, just knock my own earpiece out. That always works well. Okay. Oh. You've got a hearing aid that's partly stuck in your skull, so are you a cyborg? You mean a cochlear implant? Well, that was Yeah, I mean, anytime we start augmenting ourselves with technology, yes, you're going down that road of being a cyborg, but, I mean... We are at very, very basic stages. There's only so many things we can do. I mean, our artificial limbs we create aren't even usually permanently attached to people, so...
My hips are fake.
Your hips are fake. See? So you're a cyborg.
Both of them.
Here's an interesting thing. If you're a kind of person who's permanently stuck in a wheelchair and that wheelchair is being semi-controlled by your mind, does that make you a cyborg?
No, but I think it makes the... wheelchair part of you.
Yes. So in that case, there's a mechanical thing that's been added to your body. Okay, you can come out of that, but I mean, when you're in that, are you not a cyborg?
I suppose.
Or at least augmented. I prefer being an augment. Sounds way nicer than saying you're a cyborg.
Well, I think for a set of like Hawkins had, it's much more than just.
Well, it was
wheelchair.
It was a part of him. It was. I mean, people addressed everything that came out of that as though it was all entirely him. So yeah, it had become part of him to an extent. I mean, so much so that when they offered him a more normal-sounding voice, he said no because people knew him by this.
Yeah.
So that's kind of fascinating. Where does God fit into all these chemical love reactions? Art. There is no God.
in terms of chemical reactions, yes, there is. People who claim to be religious and to have religious rushes. I'll say a rush.
Yeah.
That it seems to be the same mechanism as somebody who gets a heroin high. Or somebody who feels love, that it just happens to trip that center of the brain, just like
there does appear to be a god, well, not a god, but a center of the brain that creates a supernatural kind of effect. Effect to us, and it may have evolved as a survival instinct, something that was needed for us to. It's thought that perhaps religion and a concept of the supernatural was needed for us to develop as a social species. That's a hard thing to swallow if you're an atheist, but it may have actually been necessary for our development. It probably ties into that aspect of fear. So fear drives us together, and because it was working, our brains evolved in a way that it maintained that. But I mean, it's hard to know what the pressures were that maintained certain things within us, but that thing to become a social species and be together was certainly something that was a set of traits that stayed with us through evolution because they were beneficial to us. I'm not saying that I'm not saying evolution evolved religion. It just was a side effect of this socializing aspect that was definitely a positive outcome from evolution. So
I don't know if you could say it's that entirely. I mean, look at the bonobo chimps. They have a very structured. Well, I shouldn't say very structured, but they have a very observably intimate or
yeah, definitely intimate.
detailed social structure. The complexity, is it more complex than us? Is it less complex than us? And how are you defining complex with that?
It's hard to know because it's really hard to categorize even amongst chimps exactly how their social structures work. We know we have seen them mourn their dead, and you know, that do those sort of things, those sort of ritual things at death.
We see elephants mourn their dead too.
Yeah, they do.
Do they believe in a religion?
Well, we don't know. If we could talk to them, we could probably find out.
We don't.
I mean, I often find this hilarious thing. We talk about, all right, if we meet an alien species, we'll learn their language. We'll be able to. We can't even talk to the alien species on our own planet. You know, there are species like dolphins and whales that we know communicate with each other, maybe with more simplistic language than we do. And elephants obviously communicate with each other as well. And there are chimp. Okay, we've managed to talk to chimps, but they've got the same sort of appendages as us, so we've been able to teach them sign language. But we had to teach them. We weren't able to learn their language. Now, that to me poses all sorts of problems with us trying to communicate with any aliens we may ever encounter, because their languages are going to be so significantly different from ours that it may just not be possible to get across that language divide.
I don't necessarily agree with that. The aliens are going to be on the intellectual plane equal or above us.
Yeah, for us to meet them, yes,
and they're going to be working to understand our language as we work to understand theirs. A cooperative effort is much more likely to succeed.
Well, that is true. And there's also the aspect that from a scientific perspective, there are certain aspects of science and maths that are universal, or we assume they are universal, so we could probably use that as a basis to start talking. But it's not going to be a simple task. It's going to be a very, very difficult task. I mean, one of the problems we have with talking with other species has generally been that dolphins don't have hands. How do you teach them sign language?
Have you seen that video going around lately? It's been a news story as well, interviews and all kinds of stuff. She has a dog that they have taught to communicate by pushing certain.
Oh yeah, I have seen
things.
that.
And I guess the thing's vocabulary is up towards like 100 words.
Yeah,
or something like that now, and it can actually make sentences. It makes sentences on its own.
Yeah, because it's pretty obvious that I mean, a lot of animals obviously have similar intelligence and reactions to things that you'd expect from a young child. So why shouldn't they be able to communicate in the similar ways if you give them the tools?
Well, we've seen that in primates, gorillas and chimpanzees being taught ASL or something like that, being able to communicate and create their own sentences.
Oh, they do. Yeah.
But a dog, really? That's like wow.
Usually around food or play. But that's fine, because you're dealing with someone, an animal with a mental equivalent of a young child. So why wouldn't they talk about things like that interest them? They're not going to care about our stuff.
Although there's a
unless we're eating it.
A very noted instance with, I think it was, what's the name of that gorilla, Kiki?
Oh yeah.
Or something like that. Where it had a kitten and the kitten died, and it sign languaged that it was sad.
Oh. There was also the one where they were showing it the pictures of different things, and one of the pictures they'd taken was they'd put its favorite doll inside its food bowl. And it put the sentence together, baby in my food.
Well, okay.
Why not? I love it. It's great. All right. PJ asked us, who put the bop into bop she bop to bop? And I can't remember the next line of the song, so I cannot answer that. Is it something bang shebang shebang? Who put the... Yeah.
No, that's Cindy, Crazy Cindy.
Yeah. It's an old song. I'm amazed I remember it. What is a category mistake?
Categorical?
Categorical. Yeah. Category mistake. Categorical mistake. Do you want to answer it?
No, they asked you.
That's mean.
Well, the base word is category.
Category, yeah.
So I would think that the using the word categorical mistake would be implying that your mistake was basic, that it covers the whole spectrum of what we're discussing.
Yeah, generally it's where you've come to an assumption out of something which is now out of the core category of what it's in. So by making an assumption on something that's outside of your data set. I believe that's how it is, because I've got a mental blank at the moment, which is why I asked if you wanted to answer it. I hate when I get mental blanks about things I know, but I'm not even going to try and get myself out of that. I'm just going to give that one to Spooky and say, yeah, fine. Where did we get? Now I moved too far. Okay. Highball. Art goes, wait, what? There is no God?
So, well, the dictionary gives the definition that we were talking about of it being a global error kind of thing. But it also has as a definition, being without exception or qualification, absolute.
Yeah.
So I guess you could take categorical mistake that way, that it was an absolute mistake. Or that it is indeed an exception.
Welcome to Boltzmann Brains Anonymous. I've maybe been a brain without substance for perhaps all of existence. Yeah, pretty much. I don't think those sort of things are worth, from a scientific point of view, worrying about. There are other people who like to worry about this stuff, and I honestly can't be bothered with it. Except that it's an interesting conversation to have occasionally. Isn't philosophy of science a field of study? Yeah, apparently it is. And there are roots for science in philosophy. And certainly where you're talking about the logical absolutes and things like that all stems from philosophy, and they are needed to get to other things within science and maths. So, yeah. But yeah, that's where you look back at philosophy becoming the root of science. But science in and of itself doesn't have to worry about those underlying things terribly often.
Thank you, Spooky.
I'm trying to catch up with the chat. Okay. Just because it's chemical doesn't mean the feelings it gives us are fake. No. The chemical reactions that come with love and things like that are still real. There's still real things that happen. All the chemical reactions that happen within our brain are still real, and they still make us who we are. So, yeah. Bone anchored hearing aid, not a cochlear implant. Oh, okay, Microraptor. That's cool. What question would stump me? Oh, I think you already know that, Spooky. What does your hips? What? Okay. Would spatula hands make you a cyborg? Why would you want spatula hands? That's an entirely different kind of pirate, isn't it? Arr, be spatula hands. Okay, Mike Rapp said I can live without my hearing aid. Hawkins couldn't live without his chair. He wouldn't have had much of a life without his chair. Certainly his quality of life would have been pretty dreadful without his chair, but he could have lived. It didn't actually have life support for him.
Yeah, I think him having that chair and the complexity of it, and him being able to keep his mind as active as it was for as many years as he had, survived Lou Gehrig's disease and all. I think the chair helped him succeed and stay alive longer. That's just there's this stupid gut feeling I have. But
yeah. I think if he'd been locked in his head more than what he was, he probably wouldn't have stayed around as long as he did. Which is all the better for us, for everyone involved.
The first time I saw him in that thing, it kind of creeped me out.
Yeah,
that was a long time ago, of course. But
have you ever seen any of the before it got really bad, and he was still actually able to talk, and he was able to give lectures himself?
Yeah, he's
very articulate man.
He's very funny too.
He is. He still was even afterwards.
Yeah.
It's just it wasn't as didn't come off as spontaneous, obviously. So,
that's why he was on The Simpsons so often.
Oh yeah. Should Stephen Hawking? We've already answered. Was he a cyborg? But should he have fought in Robot Wars? Make your own choice on that one. I don't care. Too late now. He's not with us anymore. Yeah, apparently Stool does not like my scrolling text. Tough. I have secular feelings of awe sometimes when I read about science. Whatever trips your endorphins, I suppose, as long as you aren't hurting someone else, I don't care. Well said, Sandy. Well said. If we add biological components to an android, does that become a cyborg? Well, yes. Why wouldn't it? I mean, certainly in fiction they are. We can create cyborgs the other way around. So, I mean, look at the Terminators. They were cyborgs. In fiction.
That was a movie.
Yes, it was. Elephants born they're dead? Yes, they do. Okay, let's see if I can actually find some questions. Chemistry or math will bridge the gap. Okay, I'm not sure what you were talking about there, Bull. So, okay. How do you determine the sex of a chicken still in the egg? And what implications does it have on theories of knowledge? Thanks, Spooky. I actually have no idea if you... I'm assuming... I mean, chickens are really hard to sex until they get a bit older and the roosters start getting their combs anyway. So I'm not sure. I mean, aside from putting a small needle through the shell of the egg and grabbing some DNA, and I'm not exactly sure how you would figure out what the sex of a chicken is in the egg, because you certainly wouldn't be able to X-ray the egg or anything like that, because it'd be too hard to see from that, especially in a developing embryo. But I'm assuming you could get a thin needle in and get some genetic material and figure it out. But why? That's my next question. Why? Whoa.
Because you want hens, you don't want those boy kind cocks.
Yeah, the boy kind. I just closed my thing, so I'm gonna have to figure out where we were for questions. Okay, that's okay. There's no way aliens would think we're worth communicating with. No, probably not. Hey Jen, which pharaoh led the construction of the pyramids of Giza with the help of aliens? Hissy. Not with the help of aliens. If you're not working, Hissy, and you want to hop in, yeah, go for it. Which pharaoh led to the construction of the pyramids with the help of aliens or not? With the help of aliens or not? Yeah, who started the ones in Giza? Would it be Ramses the First? I don't know. Yeah, you get me with history every time, Hissy. That's why I don't tend to talk history unless I've got somebody around who's better at it than me. The gorilla was called Coco, apparently. Jen?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why I said thank you to Spooky.
Does God bless your transsexual heart? Well, given that I don't think gods exist, no. To mix epistemology and ontology. Yeah. Oh, Nerdy's answering the question before about what is a categorical mistake. Yeah, mixing. Yep. We kind of answered that. The gold name Ra built it. Dear. Saying the Earth is flat because we cool the airplanes and hot airplanes is a categorical mistake. Jen. Okay. Not. Spheres is a mistake. Okay. Yep. Only a Boolean thinks in absolutes. Bring Jeff in. I'm happy to bring Jeff in if Jeff wants a link.
I gave him one already.
Oh, you did? Oh, well, I'm not paying attention, so if he's sitting in the background... no, he's not. Storm Mermaid. What I might do is I might shove the link in Thingy's group.
Apparently, there's a lot of people who are concerned about the sex of a chicken while it is still in the egg.
Yeah, I know. I'm wondering why.
Search it on Google.
I don't know if I want
pages.
to.
That's fascinating. Well, it has to do with marketing. You
really?
Yeah, you. If you're a chicken rancher, you don't want roosters. You want hens.
Fair enough.
Roosters are problematic when it comes to chicken raising, behaviorally, and they tend to interfere with production and things like that. Plus, if you have a rooster hanging around all these chickens that you're trying to raise real fast and send to the butcher, and having a rooster fuck them all is just not going to be very conducive to raising them, because they're going to be popping out eggs.
Alright, I just sent some links. Bring Jeff in. Jeff has a link, but Jeff said he might join us later. So,
actually, I stated that wrong. They're not going to be popping out eggs. They pop out eggs anyways. Fertilized eggs. And that's a problem. Unless you're a breeder, then it's not.
Khufu was the name of the pharaoh, I believe, but he's not 100% sure. Okay. So if you don't pay attention to the wording, launched. Oh! Launched the pyramids. Okay. No, I took that as started building them. Not launched them into space. No one launched the pyramids. Except in Stargate. Which, of course, I've already said in there. Dog eggs. Do they care about frog eggs as well?
I suspect not.
So, Spooky says some people can sex chickens at an early stage, but they don't know how they do it. They just do it, and very efficiently. I guess they pick up on some kind of clues. Yeah. Always known eggs as bum nuts, says Sammy Jenkins. What about eggs that don't come out? You know, like ovum. Anyway, it's not a bum. It's a and I can't pronounce. I'm not going any further with that because I always mispronounce that word. Cloaca, is that right? It's the one passage used for everything by birds and a lot of other animals. It's only mammals that are different, effectively, despite ducks having penises, which I think is weird. Especially as they're curly, aren't they?
All right, Jen, answer me this. How do you know the difference between the sex of a green pepper?
Okay. What? Yeah, but
why
I mean, the pepper is a seed. Yes, I suppose the seeds would have a sex, don't they?
No, it's a pod.
It's a pod. Wow. They need fertilizing so they can grow. Well, the flowers are fertilized, aren't they, before they make the pods?
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah. So
the flowers make the pod.
So, do they actually? Would they actually have a particular sex, or are they hermaphrodites?
Oh, gee, I wonder what the chat has to say about this.
Yeah. Now you're throwing something. Yeah, see, biology. I lost my earpiece again. Okay. Alright, what have we missed? Don't have an ovum for breakfast. So I'm not sure. Okay, do we have anyone in the background?
I'm munching on oyster crackers. Mmm.
What are the Colonel's 11 secret herbs and spices? I do not know, Hissy, and I aside from somebody who who works KFC, I don't think anybody does. But I believe when they did scientific testing of the KFC, there actually isn't 11 secret herbs and spices. It was more like there's only like 6 or 7 herbs that they actually put on KFC. So, come nuts, 12 in Australia. Yeah, thanks, Sammy. Let's see. We have Jeff.
Dog eggs.
Hi, Jeff.
Oh, what's up with my camera today? It's a bit weird.
Let's see. Well,
it looks like Jeff, you got a big thumbprint on the lens.
Yeah.
Or the lens
here he is. Yeah, it does look like a big thumbprint.
Off axis.
Let's see if
the answer is on Wikipedia, apparently. Says well, I've never bothered because, to be quite frank, if I'm going to cook fried chicken, I like doing my own recipes, so...
I was going to say, I did read somewhere about that. Like,
art of ignorance, red peppers are green peppers that are ripe. Sorry, break your heart.
I did read something somewhere about like the chicken thing with chicken eggs or something about, I think, identifying little things like blood types and stuff within the embryo. I can't remember. It's so long ago since I read it. But they can actually get some indicators on what sex the chickens are going to be. So,
ding, ding. Nerdy rodent wins the internet today. I asked that question because it's a myth. The green pepper question.
Yeah.
They have 3 lobes and are more bitter. Oh, okay. I figured that. I figured as a. I mean, generally speaking, a lot of those plants are hermaphroditic, so they wouldn't. How do you pick a sex?
That's the thing. You're gonna get the trick. That's like me with that Archimedes question earlier. That was a trick question. So.
Yeah, but I mean, I knew it wasn't done as a real. It wasn't a real thing anyway. So.
Yeah.
Even if you tested the hypothesis, it was never used as a weapon ever.
Yeah, I suppose you could always say that. Well, theoretically, if you had like a magnifying glass big enough or something, theoretically,
See, here's the problem. You can do that, but no matter how you want to do it, there is a more efficient system of setting a boat on fire. For example, flaming arrows.
Back on this.
Yeah.
Or a Molotov cocktail.
This is the same thing with any weapons. I mean, you go, sci-fi loves its directed energy weapons, but in all fairness, a really, really good missile with a huge explosive on it is way more efficient than any directed energy weapon.
Yeah, I like how they always show how they shoot this laser at something and it blows up.
No,
it just puts a hole through it.
Yeah, unless, of course, you hit something that's got fuel.
This is why I like
flaming arrows.
This is why one of the things that I liked about Babylon 5 was some of the lasers, they kind of cut through the ships that they were fighting rather than actually like being energy blasts as such, you know.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
I sent Matt a link to. I don't think he'll hop in because he's only just got home from being out. But
I will say though, if anyone is going to stump me on history questions, it is going to be Hissy. I'll tell you that. Oh
yeah, Hissy hops in here and she's going to tear us all a new one with history. So.
Yeah, especially ancient history. That's why I love doing those asterisk streams and whatever, because I do learn so much from her that I just didn't know.
Yeah. I've sort of gone into Matt's territory here, talking about stupid sci-fi weapons that just don't make any sense. Yeah, I like Babylon 5 for that, but here's the thing: if you've got a weapon as a weapon, energy is what it is. So if you've got a massive projectile weapon that you shoot at incredible velocities, it's going to do as much damage as an energy weapon. And it's going to be easy to make in the first place. So railguns are fucking awesome things that we can make now that are almost as good as having a big laser or a plasma weapon or something like that. These are pointless things.
Better, they're not sensitive to atmosphere.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and it's the same thing with you're better off having a missile that you can guide to where you want it to go and have it blow up at the other end. And you can put a nuke in it if you want, and then you've got shit tons of power.
Same way you do tracer fire with bullets, you know?
Yeah. You can't escape physics. And that's the thing. Like even if say we have a really advanced race that could get here, and they've got technology that's a few hundred years ahead of where we are, they'd have to find something that was incredibly different about physics that we have no knowledge of to be a threat, to be a supermassive threat to us. Because even if they've got slightly better nuclear weapons and slightly better energy weapons and slightly better railguns for those couple of 100 years, we still have all those same weapons. And we've got a lot of them. So we could defend ourselves against an alien species, which is probably why they'd never bloody come here, because we're an aggressive mob.
Well, our railgun technology is not ready for deployment.
No, but we do have some railguns. I mean,
but they're not
the little R2D2 unit that they put on ships for shooting down incoming missiles, are a railgun.
Yeah.
And they're computer targeted, so they just basically turn in the direction and just fire off a stream of ammunition in railgun format. So and that takes out the missile. So
I love the idea of a railgun. It's just such an incredible piece of technology.
Lots of people have built them.
That it's such a basic concept of magnetism.
It is. It's absolutely brilliant.
And that you can use basically the same technology and make a train.
Spooky was saying, are we the same people in two different time streams, Jenny?
Huh? What?
Spooky said, are we the same person in two different time streams? So, are you me from the near future?
she's a blonde. She has more fun.
Yeah. Phasers let you take out the take out their weapons, Mister. Well, the shields are out. Yeah. Well, shields are another silly thing. I mean, even like if you're fighting a war in space, and you've got a shield, but they send a missile at you, and the missile blows up on the shield, it's still going to move you at least, because for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. So your ship gets moved, and you who fire the missile also get moved by the firing that missile because you're throwing mass out. So you have to compensate for that. Fighting in space is not like the dogfights we see in Star Wars and Star Trek and I mean it's just I mean not only do they have noise, which annoys the hell out of me, sound does not travel in a vacuum.
I love to see spaceships in stupid movies bank on a turn.
Yeah, you see the little fighters that and they do their little runs and they do their little fly-in runs and shit.
They all fly like conventional aircraft.
And the bit that you've got to remember is space is enormous. We have little battles on this planet. You know, you think about ocean battles on the ocean where you've only got one dimension basically to worry about. Those boats have to get bloody close to each other really before they can guarantee that they're going to hit each other.
But it's interesting how
well, not necessarily
aerial combat has changed in the early days of it, and in the First World War and stuff like that. You would get several planes, and they would be having their little dogfight, and it was called a fur ball because they were literally so close together that it just from a distance it just looked like this little ball that's moving around in the sky. Well, they could do that because they fly so slow. These World War I planes, their landing speed is like 50 to 70 miles an hour. They're just through the air. You get yourself a Falcon or an Eagle, or that new, what is it, F-35?
The Joint Strike Fighter.
These things have a dogfight and it spans a state. It's way different.
Yeah, very different.
They have dogfight training at a base near here. It's 50, 60 miles away, and we see them practicing from here because they come over us.
But even in even when you said about ships or whatever having, even in the Second World War, you still have battleships. The guns have become so advanced for that time that they could be easily 20, 30, maybe more miles apart firing at one another.
Mm-hmm.
That because the guns had gotten so advanced at that point.
And then those things are amazing. The size of the shell that they use. They're chucking a couple of tons of steel, 30 miles. Jeez.
I mean, it's a great irony that by the end of that war, the old conventional battleships would be pretty much obsolete, really. So.
No, but that's the thing with war. You start a war and then you get new development. So what you started the war with is now obsolete because the new things have been developed for the use in the war. And it'd be the same thing for us. I mean, if you ended up having to fight another race in space, we'd have better technology by the end of the war than we had at the beginning.
Naval warfare is almost at an end with the introduction of I believe it's French Exocet missile. The thing is basically like a high-speed cruise missile over water, and it can hunt down a ship from like 100 miles away or something like that, and come and poke its head right through it. and it's small, and so it's not like it's going to be easy to target.
Yeah. Nerdy asked a question. What would be the best animal to attach to a railgun? I'd have to say a rat.
To see this.
And then, of course, Spooky asked what sort of rodent is Nerdy. I'd say he's a rat. Sorry, you've got a question there, Jeff, from Hissy. What are the uses of dragon's blood?
Oh, right, off the top of my head, incense for one. I believe, without Googling it here, I believe sometimes it was used to it's medicine for like skin conditions like eczema and stuff.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head.
What kind of dragon?
No, it's still like a red. It's like a red. It's like a red sort of. It can be made into like resins and stuff. I know it's lot used in a lot of neo-pagan things. It's like incense and stuff now. You can actually, if you get dragon's blood incense, it's a very nice. It is got a very nice aroma to it actually, but it's
But what kind of dragon does it come from?
Oh, hi, Dave.
I don't know.
I know you joined a while ago, but I'm trying to catch up with the chat now. I'm going to skip through a few things. If it's not a legit question, I'm not going to ask it. So, yeah, they're talking about warfare now because we were. Okay. All right. I've caught up with where the chat is. So Jenny got the klaxon, apparently.
I
don't know why. I've lost track.
Why did I get the what's the klaxon? I know what a klaxon is.
Oh, she's doing a reference to QI, I think.
Yep.
Because you made a joke about it and it wasn't accurate. It was that's what that would be.
Okay.
We're not QI. We can make mistakes.
Ding, 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 ding. Okay. I got it.
How do unmerged galaxies manage to have such big central black holes? That's an awesome question, Dave. To be fair, we have seen galaxies way back towards the dawn of time. Dawn of the universe anyway, not the dawn of time. The dawn of the universe, which still have supermassive black holes that are larger than what we have in the middle of our own galaxy, which is a more mature galaxy. So it's quite probable that a lot of the supermassive black holes that are out there, especially the ones that are exceptionally large now, actually formed not long after the Big Bang, when a lot of matter was a lot closer together. So yeah, it's possible that they formed either during or not long after, when the universe was an awful lot smaller. Yeah. To be honest, the best answer I can give to you for that, Dave, is we don't really know. It's one of those things that we're still figuring out, how unmerged galaxies can have really big supermassive black holes, and they're probably older galaxies that formed around these supermassive black holes that formed primordially, like in the early universe. But yeah, do we know? No, not yet. It's one of those things we're still learning. Okay, Spooky says to you, Jeff, what is history and why do we revise it?
History, well, simply put, history is a study of life and society in the past. That's, in a one sentence answer there. Why do we revise it? Similar thing with science in a way. It can be a self-correcting process a lot of the time. We find new things out that we often find new things or whatever that that in the past that make us think that maybe that the sort of established version of events we had were not quite accurate. I mean, like, for example, I brought up one when I was on stream with Hissy several weeks ago about when the myth of Custer's Last Stand, the Battle of the Little Bighorn, and one of the things that's been found, that's been archaeological evidence now, is that the Lakotas were actually better armed than the Seventh Cavalry were, as well as outnumbering them. They actually had repeating rifles as opposed, but so history it can be like science. It's a it's a self-correcting process. Sadly, sometimes revisionism is done for narrative purposes as well, though, unfortunately.
And that sounds like Trumpism.
Well,
yeah.
You brought up Custer at this point. When all this Confederate soldier statue stuff was going on this last summer and stuff, I kept asking myself, well, what about fucking Custer? You got all these high schools and stuff named after him. Well, the man was committing genocide.
Yeah.
And we celebrate him? What?
Well, I mean, some of the I wouldn't even call him the worst offender in that, but some of the, should we say, Civil War heroes like Sheridan and William Tecumseh Sherman. Sherman was very very open about the fact of making war on civilian populations when it came. I mean, he did it against the Confederacy, so he didn't think twice about doing it on Native Americans at all.
Mm-hmm. And Andrew Jackson. Oh, Andrew Jackson. He's on a fucking $20 bill, and he was just this horrible anti Native American racist.
But I mean, that was not common back then either.
Well, we still get.
Sorry?
We still get Winston Churchill put up on a pedestal as being the greatest ever British person to ever live, and a lot of the stuff about him. A lot of the stuff about him using gas on attacks on Kurdish civilians gets left out, and the fact that he brought tanks out onto the street against use against workers in the 1920s, that tends to get left out.
Hi, Dave.
Hello.
Oh, Dave.
How are you?
Tired but alive.
That's good. This paper that you haven't read yet. I lost my hearing. I really need new earplugs. I need to be a cyborg with them built in or something. So was there a paper actually on this about how early some galaxies can have supermassive black holes when they really shouldn't have?
Well, the problem is all our models at the moment are based upon
galactic
as
accretion.
Galaxies evolve and merge, that's how their black hole gets bigger. Merges, basically.
But we also know that there must have been some supermassive, very massive black holes that formed in the early universe, that when the universe was closer together, and probably formed during or very close to the start of our universe. So a bit during the initial expansion.
But we think that we would need to find. We don't need to find primordial black holes of some sort to demonstrate that black holes that are too small.
Yeah. Well, part of our problem is not finding intermediate-sized black holes very often.
But we think we found them now.
Yes. We got the two black holes merged that both the sizes would have fitted in the area of the intermediate black holes, and they had to form the black hole that they did afterwards. So that was a discovery from LIGO, but we didn't actually see them beforehand. We just saw the remnant. We saw it happen, and the way the gravitational waves worked showed how massive they were to start off with. So that showed that they were intermediate-sized black holes. I wish we had Dr. Becky here because she'd be able to answer this.
Yes, it's her paper.
It's her paper.
She was commenting on it, which is why I went to go and look for it, because her thesis was on the black holes from the Galaxy Zoo, the ones that have structure so that they haven't been merged. It was her last 60 Symbols video that sent me looking for the paper.
Yeah. Oh, for a 60 Symbols video, not her own videos.
No, I don't. I haven't watched her latest video actually.
No, I haven't either. So I've got some catching up to do. I've also got to send her another email. So maybe you should ask her.
Somebody in chat answered your black hole size question.
Oh, I thought the black holes increase the size through judicious training with butt plugs. But you have to have a huge butt plug to start with.
Well done, Jenny. Well done.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we'll move on from that.
Right, Jen, there's a question for you here. What is quantum computing?
What is quantum computing? Except that I was asked to ask you.
Too late.
Too late. You asked me.
Sinclair QL. There you go.
The Sinclair QL. That's a memory. We're all old enough to remember that too.
I hated the Sinclairs.
Really? I never owned one, so I don't know.
I owned a couple, but the problem is I didn't like
Spectrums?
the keys.
I'm not surprised. Chiclet keyboards are shit.
Yes,
lots of people shifted their ZX Spectrums into new cases though, so to give them proper keyboards and that. So
did they? I didn't know that.
You could actually buy them. Buy the new cases and you just took the board out and put them in and. Yeah, was it worth it? I mean, the later keyboards that Amstrad built for the later versions of the Spectrum were fine.
See, that's not a serious question from you, is it?
Isn't quantum computing the same as regular computing? Quantum computing is when you bring your laptop to an Australian airplane. I like some of the answers there. I'll
try to answer that. Was seeming a better understanding than Donald Trump had when they asked him about quantum computing. It's operating the circuitry of your microprocessors at a molecular level or atomic level instead of the gross sizes that we use now, which increases speed and complexity, but also brings on its own set of problems from everything.
Well, we actually use the quantum properties
to understand why the hell an atom does what it does. Or
Jen. What is Shor's algorithm and why is it a problem for RSA?
I don't know.
Ask that again.
Never heard of it.
What is Shor's algorithm and why is it a problem for RSA?
What's RSA?
I forget what their names are.
I can't remember what
people's names.
Yeah, I honestly can't remember what Shor's algorithm is.
It's for factoring large numbers.
Sorry?
It's for factoring large numbers.
Oh, it is, isn't it? Yeah. I actually don't know.
You go nerdy answers. It means RSA can be easily hacked.
There, see, nerdy's way better at that than me. Despite the fact I've got a degree in computer science. But that's because I mostly ended up working in the hardware level and doing network management and stuff like that and not programming. So most of my programming has been for me in the last 10, 15 years. So.
By the way, people...
we never answered.
I came upon this page here. Wikipedia is in desperate need of some donations, and if you can go in there and pitch them like $3, they'll be happy. And we all know that we all use Wikipedia.
This is what I want to point something out about Wikipedia. Okay, for all its faults, Wikipedia is without doubt the greatest collection of human knowledge that has ever existed.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, this is the thing, and people want to be kept because people. This is instant thing to like. People got this instant tendency to dismiss something if you share something from Wikipedia. Oh, that's from Wikipedia, you know. It's like people instantly dismiss that. What I often forget is that most of those Wikipedia articles also have references to what's in them, so it's always a very good source for finding references. If you can get not just getting a very good basic outline of whatever it is But generally, it's worth looking at the references and the citations, and it's very good for that. But yeah, people just have this tendency to just dismiss Wikipedia out of hand. And of course, it's got all its problems, but I totally agree with what Dave's just said there.
For example, I was looking up what's this Shor's algorithm. Shor's algorithm is a polynomial time quantum computer algorithm for integer factorization. Okay, I have no idea what that means, but it's but it has a reference that I can then go to and maybe explore that and learn something else.
I highly doubt it.
Well, let's see here. Maybe
I'm not 100% certain I fully understand it, and I've read repeated papers on it.
Yeah.
Well,
this is
okay,
the
yeah,
problem when you're talking about quantum computers, is that it's a fairly new field, and most of us who do computer science haven't bothered to look into it too deeply because we're still dealing with old-fashioned style computers. So, I'm interested from the from the concept of quantum mechanics and how we use the properties of quantum mechanics to make quantum computers. But yeah, basically, when you a normal bit in a computer can be on or off. A qubit, which is a quantum bit, can basically be in any state, any possible state at any time because of random fluctuations, which is the way that quantum mechanics works. So the idea is to use the randomness fluctuations of quantum mechanics to derive an answer to a problem. So use quantum mechanics to our advantage so that we can test lots of different things all at once. And that is where that comes down to Shor's algorithm for factorizing things being a problem.
How does it work? Does it work on many worlds so that the answer is put into all the worlds split off and all the answers are put out there and you pick the right one? Or does it work that it just happens to give you back the right one?
No, I think it's more of a case of
here, folks. See, Wikipedia, $5. There.
I think it's got more to do with the fact that you've got because everything in quantum mechanics is basically down to probabilities. Where's the electron going to be at this particular point in time? So, we calculate the probabilities and figure that out. But we use the fact that those things are a set of probabilities, and you feed a set of data into it that's a set of probabilities, and the way that the quantum equations collapse for where the positions of certain things are within the qubit will derive you an answer. I think that's how it's supposedly meant to work. Don't quote me on that because I am not a quantum physicist.
In quantum mechanics, does the actual electron have a fixed position, and is the wave function real?
We don't know, but we assume the wave function is real because it works. But it could just be a mathematical approximation of how our universe works, in the same way that Newtonian mechanics is an approximation of general relativity. We are probably dealing with an approximation of how the universe works. But these things do work, and that's the thing. The qubits do work. So if you run Shor's algorithm through use Shor's algorithm, and I don't know how the algorithm itself is actually written because I've never read the papers on it, and I don't really care because quantum computers are so fucking complicated. But basically, if you've written an algorithm that can figure out the factors of different numbers, and when you're dealing with encryption, which is what Nerdy was talking, and you were talking about with RSA, if you can figure out all the factors of something almost instantaneously using a quantum computer, then you've got no form of current encryption system that we use at the moment that is unbreakable.
Do you want to know something interesting?
What?
I think RSA has been mathematically broken.
Has it?
I think so. About 6 years ago.
Yeah. Regardless, I mean, we've got other forms of encryption anyway.
I know we have. It's what we use is my point. There was a paper coming out of, I think, Nottingham, somewhere around that. That was classified straight away.
Yeah, Titan Uranus said it's basically the infinite number of monkeys on the infinite number of typewriters, and we'll eventually get the answer. We're using quantum mechanics to basically do that.
But you have to know which one is right.
You still have to know which one is the right answer, and for some reason...
It's useless having all the answers, because if all of them are wrong, you've no way of knowing which is right.
Yeah. As Chad Hall says, that means that it's a bounded algorithm and that the parallel capacity of quantum computing, because it basically does all the equations at once. One qubit can do... In theory, if you design your quantum computer right, just a handful of qubits can do almost an infinite number of calculations instantly, in theory.
I like this question.
Forget that quantum computing. Nobody. It's boring.
I like
shit.
this question.
Spooky's got a good question.
Right. Okay, what's Spooky's question?
In a double rainbow, why are the colours of the outer rainbow reversed, and why is the sky darker in between the two rainbows?
I think I know.
Go on, Jen.
Because the refracted light that you're getting is coming out of both sides of the water droplet. One's coming down, one's going to the up, and the darkness in between probably has to do with more perception of the color between, how your eye sees it, because there's two bright sources and a less bright source in between. The kind of a type of diffraction that happens with your eyes, as opposed to any real darkening.
The first, you're right about the first bit. You're wrong about the second bit.
Oh well, that's okay.
Wouldn't it just be because of the particular colors that are at the end of those two things would give you the darker banding in the center anyway?
Oh well, that might be. I've never actually.
I actually don't know. I only knew the bit that Jen knew.
I thought our rainbow was like red, yellow, orange. From top to bottom, and so it'd be the opposite on the top.
Well, I mean, they're split across the wave lengths of light, so that's why the colors are in the order that they are. So when you the wavelengths bend at different rates. So you darker, you'd be getting towards darker shades of red, is it?
I'm not remembering
so,
which, if you're looking at a rainbow like this, which color is on the top and which is on the bottom, and that'll just be the opposite of it.
Well, you'll end up with red, so you're red and down to infrared. So don't forget, the rainbow will also include a stack of colors that we actually can't see because our visual cortex can't. So you'd have a gap in the banding. I
don't know why, but my brain keeps thinking that if it was, the ultraviolet to the inside here, and to the outside here, that it would be darker. But I don't know why I'm thinking that.
Yeah,
it's basically summed up there. It's because the light, the two angles you hit at, that it's bounced out at to produce the upper and the lower rainbow. I don't know if they're called rainbows. Well, the whole thing is, but there's less light going through in that central area. It's just a matter of less light.
Because of the diffraction has occurred and it has actually just separated and split the light, so there's just not as much energy left. Okay, I can buy that.
And all rainbows have a reflection. You just can't always see it.
What I'd really like to see is a double rainbow in full circles. You see how sometimes you can see a rainbow
if you're a
complete circle.
Well, technically they all are. It's just that where our horizon is blocks our view from seeing them. So that's why if you get up above them, you can see the full circle. And so.
I still think one of the best little pictures that was ever caught for like meme purposes was a rainbow, and then the ends of it was going on into at the end of it seemed to end in a marijuana dispensary. So it's like, there's a whole new means is a pot at the end of the rainbow.
I like it. I'm trying to remember my favorite one. Rainbow meme. It's the one with the rainbow and a lightning bolt. and the lightning bolt stops where the rainbow starts, and the meme has to do with bringing what happens to protect your city from God if a bunch of gay people move into it or something like that.
Oh yeah, I saw that picture.
We didn't answer one question.
What was that one?
As to why it's reversed. It's reversed because the second rainbow has an extra bounce.
Yeah, it's a reflection.
In the raindrop. So the lower one is, I think, one bounce in, diffract, bounce off the back, diffract, bounce back to you, diffract out, and the other one is done by 2 bounces at the back of the raindrop.
Yeah. It's the same thing as you have with a prism. If you get the right angle of incident, you will have an internal reflection within any liquid or solid that's transparent. So that's why you have the internal reflections. Prisms make awesome mirrors. Sorry.
Lift your right hand up.
Mine?
Yeah. Okay. I just wondered whether your camera was flipped.
No. So yeah. I think we've done well. Yay, rainbows. Yeah, that one.
That's the rainbow shield.
Yeah, I've seen that before. It reminds me of that Ricky Gervais routine about Noah's Ark.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious. Which is absolutely hilarious. And I'm not even a fan of Ricky Gervais. But
no, I'm not a fan of Ricky Gervais. That's one of his few ones that actually is funny. I don't find Ricky Gervais all that funny, to be perfectly honest.
No, I don't either. Here's the meme. It says, when God tries to punish your city for homosexuality, but gays use their magic shield to protect it. That's cute.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Sammy
Jenkins, right? A double rainbow would be 2 circles. Effectively. It really isn't. It's really just one circle. It's just because that part of the visible spectrum we can't... Well, that visible spectrum. That part of the spectrum we can't see.
It's also...
just saw what Hissy said in the chat, and I was thinking along the same lines, but I was thinking 4 rather than Zeus. But...
Oh, Chad Hall has his special in electro-optics, quantum, and material science. Oh, what? Have to have you on sometime, Chad.
Chad's a smart guy.
Yes.
I've been reading his stuff here.
Chad's a very smart man.
Smart guy. Can we actually make a force field? That's a interesting question.
Absolutely no problem making a force field whatsoever. We're just very, very short on the power required to do it. And the power required to do it might fry everything that goes anywhere near it.
And you've got to remember that to make a force field, the easiest way to do it is to create a plasma and a magnetic field to contain it and use the plasma as your force field. But of course, you wouldn't be able to see through that sort of force field.
I was just thinking of making a magnetic field that powerful enough that it would work on diamagnetic material.
That's what I always assumed, that a force field that would have to be some sort of magnetism.
But it would have to be massively powerful. The amount of energy required to generate is...
At that point, you start stripping electrons off of atoms, so you're actually going to have problems.
Yeah.
You wouldn't actually be able to make the field itself because you'd tear the equipment apart that you're trying to make the magnetic field.
No, I think you could make it by using multiple devices to produce the magnetic field away from it. I think that slightly...
No, because that's not how magnetic fields work.
You can multiply them up.
Yeah, you can, but they still pass back through whatever's creating them.
Yeah, my point is that you have the devices that you create multiple devices in the same way. I think you can do the same thing you do with a laser, which is you can have 20 lasers to a point, and that point is then more powerful. No, you can't do that.
No, you can't. You cannot. No, you can't do that.
No, you can't do that. You explicitly can't do that. Shit, no, probably not then.
Wasn't there a study done by...
You can make a magnetic field and hold particles in it and accelerate those particles, and that would create you a shield that would move with the ship. And it is actually something that was considered, but you also wouldn't be able to probably see through it, depending on what you made the plasma out of. So
what you just said, Dave, makes me think back when I was a kid, like around 10 years old. I used to think that if you put two flashlights pointing at each other and lined them up really, really precisely, that the light would magnify and it would get even brighter.
Wasn't there some study done on potential energy shields by some students at Leicester University a few years ago? I'm trying to remember. It's something I read years ago, a while ago anyway. So,
Sorry, I just read Chad's answer to the force field and I had to giggle.
Yeah,
because he's
I just hide behind a rock. It's technically a field
that would be the kind of
electronic forces, and it's got a
proven track record. You use to protect the models at a fashion show.
Yeah.
One of those things that annoys me about space travel at the moment.
Are force fields atheists?
Yeah,
our force fields atheists.
The one thing that annoys me about
Steve.
space travel at the moment is that we are not building big enough. Basically, we are going to end up having our water around us. Yeah, the easiest way to protect a spaceship is you have your water. You be within the container
that's got all the water in it. Yeah.
Yeah, your tank is a donut.
Technically, though, if you have a magnetic field and you inject plasma into it, you can actually use the moving plasma in the magnetic field to stop most of the cosmic rays from getting into the spaceship.
But that requires
spaceship
and if you use energy
water. The energy is the problem. But the energy is the problem for everything we want to do.
If you used water, then you could also transport whales all over the universe.
I'm shutting up for the next one. Spooky, how do magnets actually work?
Because
I can't answer that.
Should we get Chad in here? It's his field.
I don't really know how they actually work. I think you can.
Are you talking permanent magnets or electromagnets? I mean, technically, it's the same principle, but
I just want to respond to something Hissy said in the chat actually about Leicester University. My brother-in-law's a lecturer there.
Is that a raging endorsement or
No, he's very he is very, very smart at what he does. He's into like genetics and stuff like that. He's also done this like real like weird like studies into like things like ants and stuff as well. Like it's this he's very, very smart man. For all I seldom see him.
Chad's mentioning sonic shield, phase
sonic
shields
for that.
But you'd actually, you'd need an atmosphere. It doesn't work in space.
Chad, what the hell is a tactile hologram? Is it exactly what it sounds like?
Yes.
Yep.
No shit.
Some of the ones that experimented with that are actually really cool.
No, they are absolutely brilliant. They use sound waves to create tactile holograms.
Everything we've got in sci-fi now, most of the stuff that people think of in sci-fi now, we can do and we have done on small and sometimes very small scales.
Yeah. Now, but basically, with magnets, when you're talking about things that can be magnetic, you're dealing with usually a metal, but not all metals can be. Most metals are either magnetic or diamagnetic. So,
ferrous or non-ferrous.
Ferrous, yeah. So what you've got is if you line up the directions of charges within the metallical structure, you can it creates the magnetic field. You can create it does create a magnetic field.
Kingdom?
What's a what?
Magnetic kingdom.
Magnetic kingdom.
Don't think I've ever heard the term.
I have,
Now,
but I'm
Um,
now I'm worried I've got the term wrong, and that's what
Yeah,
I want to ask Chad another question.
I'm actually
Chad,
gonna
Chad,
cheat
when
here
you
and use Google on that, Dave, just because I'm really
yeah,
interested.
I'm not. I think you might have that wrong, Dave.
Yeah, I think
Right,
I'm
I've never
wrong.
heard. I just keep magnets for sale at Magnet Kingdom.
Domain, yes, not a
Yeah.
Kim.
Was I
Things
thinking?
I'm not getting.
Thank you, Chad. Magnetic domain. Well,
hey,
That's probably what I was thinking.
it was.
you guys, I wanted to ask Chad another question. Chad, when you talk about the
I sent Chad the link.
Yeah.
I want to get your words right here.
Yeah, it's a region of a ferromagnetic magnet where the fields are locally aligned.
Create localized pressure that can be correlated with a projected halogram. Is that kind of using some of the same forces and science as when they can take particles or small pieces of stuff and actually levitate them at different levels with acoustic waves and that sort of thing?
Yeah, it is.
Frogs.
Yeah, it's exactly the same thing. Yeah, it's derived from the same research. So.
I find it funny that they said it was basically impossible. And
Yeah, Chad's answered it to the same
acoustic stuff has been fantastically evolved.
It is.
Just moving it, and now we're at the point. I think the last paper I read, no, it was a while ago now, so it must be more. Was about tweezers, acoustic tweezers.
Really?
Hi, Chad.
Pick something up and move it around.
This is going to be fun.
Hi,
I will see if I can add you in so people can see you. Cool. How are you?
And you can kick me. You can hide me.
No, I think I can add him. Wrong one.
I was going to say I thought the
No, that's me.
I was going to say I thought the Magnetic Kingdom was like a new part of Disney
I
World
can get
or
him.
something.
So if I
So what's the question? Magnets?
I was talking about
stick you up here, and then I'll put you in the right spot. So just keep talking. They can hear you. They just can't see you yet.
Yeah, questions about magnets, is it? I can't
Yeah,
remember.
magnets. We were on magnets.
Okay. Okay. So magnetism is just as fundamental to all matter as electric charge, as mass, as any other property. It's just a question of whether or not those influences are arranged in such that it can actually leave the domain of the atom, basically.
Yeah.
You're thinking about magnetism as you understand it. You're probably thinking ferromagnetism. That's when you start dealing with iron, basically.
Yeah.
Bar magnets. And what you're seeing there is, again, that magnetic domain stuff, but that doesn't explain anything. The reason why iron in particular has a magnetic field is because when you're filling up the energy levels, it'll go, all that SPDF stuff, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
But as it's filling up, you notice it's in the transition elements. It's in the top layer of the transitions, which means it actually has an incomplete 3D shell with 3 unpaired electrons that are all oriented in the same orientation. But it also has a 4s layer shielding it. And what that means is that 4s valence layer is actually what does a lot of the interacting. So the the 3 unpaired electrons that are deeper in the iron atom are actually not knocked out of place when they go into chemical reactions. So they still maintain that magnetic orientation and they don't get lost in the sea of electrons.
Oh,
I
okay.
think that's the best way.
And of course, the magnetic structure of it is created either from an electrical field or pressure or something that's pushed the domains all facing into the same direction.
Chad is so smart. He makes me think I should dye my hair blonde.
But if
I swear my hair's more blonde. Chad's coming through.
Sorry, Chad. You're breaking up a little in your audio.
You're breaking up.
I know what a Heisenberg compensator is.
I picked it as I don't recall. Heisenberg compensator. It was a time travel thing, wasn't it?
It's Star Trek, and it's the technobabble they use to get around the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. So they could only have because you can't have teleportation because you can't know exactly everything about every individual atom.
To be honest, I'd never heard the term he was using, but I got a clue from his next question, which was, "What about a sonic screwdriver?"
Similar to those tactile force fields we were discussing before.
Yeah.
Very
The
technical.
worst thing is, I think a sonic screwdriver. We're going to have a sonic screwdrivers in 100 years.
We have sonic screwdrivers. That's already been a thing.
I was going to say that there was like ultrasound tools, isn't there, that have been worked on.
Even ones that can turn things and undo things. So,
although you'll probably see some sort of news article that says scientists have created an actual sonic screwdriver, and then when you actually read it, that's not what it actually is at all, you know. But
so yeah. Oh, chat. We've lost Chad.
We lost Chad.
He'll be back.
Connection issues because he was breaking up a little bit as well.
Yeah, he was. He'll be back. That was good answer. Good to get an answer though about
Hissy asked a good question here. Actually, I thought
he's back.
He's back. Okay. Welcome back.
I think Hissy's asked an interesting question here.
Yeah, she did.
If any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic, how long before we have personal broomsticks and flying invisible cloaks to move on? But I thought the interesting part of that was the whole: is advanced technology indistinguishable from magic? I know what people think on that one.
Well, that would depend on your sophistication level.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the cloak because that's actually a thing.
It is.
Has anybody here looked into invisibility and stealth tech and anything like that?
You're talking about what?
Yeah, I haven't researched it or anything, but I've read a couple of mainstream media things about it.
You're talking about metamaterials.
Yes.
Yes.
Specifically, the one negative index materials.
Yes.
So what they are is it's a material that's engineered to have a fraction at a particular wavelength, which basically means that you can bend light around things. So that technology in principle exists.
We can do it with microwaves and infrared at the moment.
They do it with radar and other things. Well, that's how
that's right.
The proprietary stealth paint they had, they just had small little ferric crystals in there to act as.
Right there, Jenny.
Isn't it just another form of gravitational lensing?
No.
Yeah, well, basically the idea is the same, just a different force. Yeah, it's just more electromagnetic. If you want to think of it, that more of a dielectric thing.
Yeah. Metamaterials are fascinating things, though. It's one of the larger growing areas of physics at the moment. The study of metamaterials. So
it's absolutely huge because there's so many things we start getting into computing. Optical computing is different than quantum computing.
So, whilst I've got you here, I was looking up and I was actually reading through an article earlier, and I was going to bring it up, but we got into discussion already about a metamaterial that's built from graphene.
Okay.
And it is used to make a superconductor, a room temperature superconductor, and it's done by getting graphene sheets and twisting them so that you've got different angles of incidence between the different layers. And at different layers, the graphene behaves differently as you try to pass electrical current through it. So at one point it acts as a insulator, at another point it acts just like a normal conductor or a semiconductor, and at another point it will act like a superconductor. and it's all done by changing the angles between the layers. I mean, we're talking about layers an atom thick, but I mean, it's an interesting metamaterial.
But I've never heard of that before.
I have an.
Couldn't you just basically reorient the crystals?
Yeah, you reorientate the crystals and it changes the properties. And they're looking at it because it could be used as a switching system within quantum computers, where it changes the properties of it as you move this molecular structure. So it's very, very fascinating. Give me a sec. I actually have the article up, a news article, not the actual. Yeah, they call it magic angle graphene. Oh, I don't know why they called it magic. That really is annoying.
Magic angle graphene.
But
I'll write that. Cool.
There's the link. I just put the link in the chat.
I've always got thinking paper nearby, anyways.
So the work was done in started back in 2018 at MIT. So
I mean, graphene's been huge.
It is huge.
Long time ago. Just because it's right in that group 4 sweet spot where you get for anybody who hasn't noticed in the periodic table, there's carbon and then directly below it is silicon, and that's because they have very similar properties. So when you're basically talking about silicon-based computers, a lot of similar properties. That's why all this stuff's kind of the equation. It's not that people are particularly, or organics are particularly good at electricity or anything. I just wanted to clear that up.
Yeah, I mean, graphene is an amazing thing, really, and it's just so easy to make too. it's like,
well, if they can actually get, what was the temperature range of that superconductor? Can you recall offhand? Or?
Oh god, I've like I said, I linked the article, but I've got it here. So let's see.
Liquid helium or liquid nitrogen?
Yeah,
that's really all I.
So it behaves like a superconductor is the point. I don't know if it actually works. If they're actually calling it a superconductor, but I mean, if it behaves like one, I would say that is.
Read the paper.
Yeah. See, it says there's an abstract there. They've got a link in there to the abstract from the paper, but the article itself doesn't actually have the temperature in it. But they called it room temperature. But I mean, room temperature, they count that down to what, about minus 100. So
room temperature, no helium involved. That's all room temperature means.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just you and me now.
We've lost everyone, have we?
I'm still here.
No, Jane's still here.
I'm mostly here.
Dave's mostly here. Yeah, so I mean, I've given you the link for it anyway. I hadn't had a good chance to properly read through it. I want to go through the abstract on the paper, or at least go through the paper at some point, because it looks fascinating, but I didn't check what the temperature was for it. But I mean, it's still a higher temperature superconductor, but I like the fact that it's not just a superconductor. You can change what it is in the middle of using it, and that's just something we haven't had. This is a superconductor switch, basically. So
exactly. That basically gives you a transistor with the option of being just a straight wire.
Which means we can make
that you can toggle to for any. I mean, that's fascinating stuff. If you can control it, but I mean, usually you want to control one of these things. It's like, okay, I've got this one quantum dot, and it's a quantum computer, and it's fantastic, and you've got an entire laboratory supporting infrastructure supporting this one little thing. It's like that's not gonna fit in my bedroom. Old days of computers when you're talking about the actual bugs in the machine, right? Having to replace this. Got a couple of those old vacuum tubes.
Welcome back, Jeff.
Well, I always wondered about the wisdom of going into and spending so much money on quantum computers. If everyone's got to be kept at near absolute zero, that doesn't sound like a very practical solution to mass computing.
The
good news is that liquid nitrogen costs about the same as milk.
Yeah, it's not good if you want a quantum computer in your home, but the reality is at the moment, as far as the technology goes, we don't need a quantum computer in everybody's home. We're at the point where if you can have several quantum computers around the world because of how fast they should be able to process data, that will be enough for now for us to do the equations and stuff that we need to do on them.
Yeah,
and later on,
this is back to like the early days of computing, though. There's nothing wrong with mainframe computing. Having access to a quantum computer and multiple terminals that can access it, it's the same as any supercomputing activity we have or any computer bank that's at any university today.
Yeah.
I mean, you just log some time on it, right? So there's no worries there.
And you've still got our old-fashioned computers to do everything else. So
logging onto the internet and doing your work in the cloud, for example, is really no different than having been on a mainframe in college days.
No different at all. No data, there, access to it. Internet goes down. You're like, damn it, where's my computer?
Yep.
Because it feels like your computer is stolen from you. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I mean, we'll end up with access to these machines.
I'm like high school level science, and then you got guys like Jeff and Dave who are like college level guys, and then we have people like Jen and Chad who are like gods.
I am not like a god.
Jenny, I'm not even like high school level science. I am that. I did not even get my GCSE in science. I've been trying to do a lot of making up for this over the last 2 or 3 years, but I'm still woefully.
It shows.
And I would in no way put my knowledge above Dave's here, because I honestly, from discussions with Dave and I are on a fairly close level.
But I can still fix a car better than all of you. So.
Oh, I guarantee that. I have a working knowledge of how internal, as in a theoretical knowledge of how the internal combustion engine works. I couldn't repair one. I'm very much Sheldon in that respect.
I could manage a car.
I could change the oil, maybe.
Undoing one nut.
This is a fun thing you can do if you understand how an internal combustion engine works. Look up how a jet engine works. It's awesome because rather than having its 4 different steps in time, it's 4 different positions in space. It's the exact.
I was going to say, on a technical level, the jet engine is a lot simpler.
It is. But it's the exact same 4 steps. It's just separated in space rather than in time. You don't have 1 cycle, 2 cycle, you don't have the compression, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Just there's compression happening here, the ignition happening here. You can see it.
I used to love it in the early '80s. All these mechanics were in absolute panic because of digital electronics in cars, and I understood it because I was a computer geek and stuff like that then, and it didn't bother me. It didn't mystify me. I understood exactly what the damn thing's doing. And so I would teach other mechanics about it. And the basic analogy I made is, look, this is nothing more than a carburetor that has been expanded out to deal with individual functions that the carburetor that you're familiar with performs. And if you look at it that way, it's just a lot more simple.
And most of the world is actually like that. Whenever you look at any kind of technology, it's a highly technical version of something very, very simple.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, on top, like the good news is in terms of the you guys getting up on your science and whatnot. I'm not actually a physics teacher as well, so I'm happy to bring it down to that level. It's kind of where I'm used to talking.
Oh, brilliant!
So hopefully, it makes sense.
Well,
I'd like to put Chad and Conspiracy Cats together.
Huh. Well, I'm doing another one of these streams on Tuesday morning my time, which will be Tuesday evening for you, Chad, where I'm having Matt, as in not a scientist, and Navadia on as well. Yep. If you're available, I'd love to have you in as well, because
I definitely agree with what Jenny said. You've got to get Chad and Katz into a hangout together.
I want to get Chad and Matt in a hangout together.
Yeah.
I mean, Matt's field. Matt's is getting his PhD at the moment, but his passion is lasers and stuff like that. So
drag AB Science into it too.
He's brilliant.
There are some brilliant people online who just make me feel stupid, and I don't necessarily think I'm stupid, but they make me feel stupid.
Well, Jenny, I mean, you've been because I know you've been in hangouts with him. Every time I've been in a hangout with Landon, I just feel like so dumb next to him. But I always come away learning something, even if it's only a little thing. You know.
I have a stream planned with Landon and a couple other people where we're going to be talking about a history history thing I can actually talk about, a history of maths and why we know things like order of operations are important. And we're going to go through the whole thing of that and you know how these things are derived and stuff like that. And Landon's going to be in that. So I feel like I'm very much secondary to the entire discussion.
Landon's awesome though, because
yes.
Just as well because he doesn't look down at his nose at people that know less than him. Let's face it, is about 98% of the human population.
Yeah.
But you know, so like I said, even though like the majority of what he does goes over my head, I always come away for a conversation learning something, even if it's something little. I always come away learning something, which is great.
Jen, why don't we put together a science-based show with all these smarty pants on it together?
Well, that's the idea of doing this.
Nothing more than a round table that are just chatting about stuff that the chat comes up with, that they could come up with themselves, and just a free discussion.
Haven't you noticed that's what this show ends up being, Jenny?
Yeah.
That was the whole idea of this. That people ask questions and it would.
The super smarts. Let's get the super smarts in here.
That was my idea in the long run. But I mean, everybody's got their own fields where they're good at things and they can answer questions and they can be. And I don't think that people who don't have a degree should be left out just because they don't have a degree, because people do have things to contribute. So.
And I should just also say, also for the record here regarding myself, I've come in here, answered a few things regarding history. I am not a historian in any sense of the word. It's just something I have an interest in, and I can pull out an awful lot of like facts or whatever about historical events that I know, but I am not a historian. But again, I enjoy taking part in anything like this, or it be a science history, where I can come on and learn something. You know.
Well, here's the thing that I always make an important distinction between with my students, because they always feel really dumb because it's physics class and that's where you go to feel dumb. There's a huge difference between being smart and educated. I'm well educated. That means I have degrees. Being smart is how you approach them, how you retain things, how you process. The only thing a degree shows is that you have the financial means, and B, the ability to pass tests. That's all it really shows. Most people with degrees 5 years on don't remember a damn thing unless they're working in that field.
Well, that's right.
Just think back about, elementary school, you remember. I mean, there's a lot of that stuff that you forget because it just doesn't matter.
Because my qualifications are in maths and computer science. And my work in computers for the last 10 years has been managing networks, so I could tell you a lot of shit about that. But you're going to ask me a baseline programming question, and I'm probably going to struggle to answer it because I haven't, apart from for my own benefit, I haven't done a lot of programming in the last 10 years.
You're selling yourself so short, though. Your knowledge of physics and
but I'm not trained in that. I have a good
astronomy.
I have a good understanding of those things because physics and science, all science has a base level of math in it, and because I understand the math, it makes it easier to understand the physics and the. But I'm a layperson, Jen, when it comes to that. I've got a good understanding, but
I understand what you're saying, but there's something about learning to code. It actually shows you how to structure things in a particular way. Like, I'm not a good coder because I can't remember syntax worth a damn, and I just can't do it. But an object-oriented tool, I can tell you, okay, I need this data, this is how I have to process it. I can sit down or a nerd and say, this is what I want you to put in the appropriate programming language. But the actual program is much more conceptual.
I insist that you ban nerdy.
Because he's talking about Python.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to erase Python from history.
I thought. No, but I'll defend it. I of some very smart people who code in Python doing some.
Yeah, they code
Yeah.
in Python because they don't know better.
Fighting words there, Dave. I'm not even going to go down that one.
Yeah,
They
my
use
failure
Python
with education has been my lack of math skills. I as an adult now, I'm sure I'm smart enough to be able to take on and conquer math. But
Yeah.
as a child growing up, I got really screwed over by a couple of conflicts with school districts and teachers who just didn't give a fuck, and who were into telling kids they're stupid. And
Yeah.
I understand the concepts behind physics and chemistry and biology and all this, but I can't do the math. So I fail the classes.
See,
And that's the idea behind getting a degree. Being able to do the math is nice if you're actually wanting to engineer something or compute something.
You don't
But-
need it to understand it.
No.
You don't need math.
Well,
The degree is kind of-
I can't get past Chem 100, so
Don't do an awful lot of what we're talking about is stuff that you don't need to understand the mathematics of general relativity to understand the way the models are put together.
I completely agree. I completely agree.
Yeah.
But the grades in the passing comes from.
You don't need to pass. I don't understand why you're trying to pass anything. To gain the knowledge, you don't need the.
Well, okay. I guess I have the bias that if you don't have the degree, you don't have the.
Fair
smarts.
enough.
Yeah, but that's not true. I mean, you can be a lay person in it and still have a lot of knowledge about it without having a degree. I mean, I'm not afraid to talk about physics and astronomy and talk about it with a reasonable level of confidence. And I'm also prepared to have somebody like Chad or Matt or Dr. Carl go, no, Jen, you're wrong. This is actually what it is. And I like that because then I learn something. Then I learned what I learned what I was wrong about, which is the whole point of this. Stump Me is about me learning as much as other people learning. Yeah, go, Chad. Oh, you put your hand up.
Something yesterday in my head.
Yeah.
I just know live stream. I don't like interrupting people. Oh, I forgot what I was going to say. Damn, went away. Anyways, go on.
I don't know what I was saying either. I just saw you had your hand up, so I wanted you to. So...
See, the way I think about things, I can do the math, but I can do the math because I have a particular way of visualizing it. Like if you've ever watched channel 3 Blue 1 Brown, he kind of gets the idea of how I think about math. So as soon as his videos started coming out, I'm like, this is fantastic. I can show this to people finally. That visualization that I have in my head, like I learned that the Andromeda Galaxy was of the same order of magnitude as the Milky Way. I thought it was smaller. I mean, little facts like that are going to change. That's observation, headcanon, thing that you misremember. But if you have the ability to categorize things and have that adaptive knowledge to it and understand, anyways, you get where I'm going with it.
That order of magnitude thing with the Milky Way and Andromeda. The Andromeda has more stars, but the Milky Way has more dark matter. So the mass of the two galaxies is very similar, but from our visual perspective, Andromeda is bigger.
See, I am so uncomfortable
Apart from
with
the
them
fact that we
saying
can't see either clearly.
that this or that has
that's
more dark
true.
matter.
That is true.
I'm very uncomfortable with them standing there and saying this has more dark matter than that. If we can't see it, if we can't measure it, we can calculate and surmise, but we don't know.
Not surmise. No, we know.
We know.
We know it's not. It's the same as you can't see UV, but we know that it's there because we can look at it we can detect it in a different way. We can detect dark matter. We know there is mass that is there that we have labeled dark matter. That mass exists. It is there.
Yeah. Did you ever see Star Wars where it said where they go, oh, there appears to be a planet missing.
oh, we'll go to the center of gravity because that's what, yeah, and that's the point. We can see the effect of the gravity of the dark matter, so we know it's there.
Mm.
It could be something else. We might call it something else in the future, but we have labeled that mass as dark matter.
Yeah,
we know it's there. We know it exists. We know it's real.
Yeah.
Now,
well, we've already solved the problem of some of it, haven't we? In the sense that because there was a paper about this recently. I only read the abstract and I can't remember now what it was. That there was there's a type of a type of structure of particle doesn't emit radiation in the same form as other matter. It's a particular pairing of quarks and gluons, and they think that makes up a percentage of the dark matter. But I'm only going from memory from something I read about 6 months ago.
Well, I'll be a lot more comfortable with dark matter when they can measure it and show it to me, or detect it, see it, touch it, feel it somehow.
How are you happy with black holes?
Pardon?
You've always got to be careful.
How are you happy with black holes?
Matter.
Because we can see them.
No, we can't.
What about that photograph that was out a couple of years ago?
We saw them for the first time this year.
No, we can't see black holes at all.
No.
Well, we see the event horizon.
The accretion disk. But
we see the accretion disk.
Only now. We've had 40, 50 years of knowing black holes existed.
Because we've seen the effects of their gravity.
Without ever finding them.
Yeah.
But we've actually seen the stars orbiting them over time lapse. So we've actually inferred their existence. Yeah. For decades.
And we can infer dark matter's existence by the way the galaxies orbit. The stars and galaxies orbit. So, what were you saying whilst Dave and Jenny were talking, Chad? Because I missed it. Sorry?
I was going to say we got to be careful calling it dark matter because it fits into our mathematical models as matter, but as of yet we can't use matter to explain it. So there might be something missing in the model. So be aware that these are models. General relativity is the best explanation. The universe has no obligation to be intelligible to us.
Yeah.
So you've got to be careful about knowledge.
Are they speaking of the same force when they talk about dark matter versus dark energy?
No. Dark energy...
Dark energy to do with expansion. And basically, dark energy is basically what's keeping the dark matter from causing the universe from collapsing. It's like, oh shit, it should be collapsing.
Say that again, please.
Was that a fair assessment?
Yeah, no, that's a fair assessment.
You broke up. I missed
kind of broke up a little bit at the end there, Chad, so missed the end of that.
The thing was, dark matter has been inferred from the observational astronomy.
Yes.
Yeah.
But based on the amount of dark matter, we should see everything kind of collapsing out. But it's not. So it seems to be some dark energy keeping it all apart.
Yeah.
That is to say that there is some phenomenon that
so they're each other's yin and yang.
No, they're they are completely unrelated.
Yeah.
They've been given names that are dark because we couldn't see them.
We use the term dark because we can't see what it is, basically. So it's unknown. It's an unknown to us.
Be very careful with my language. That's why I'm saying dark matter, dark energy. In our equations, they fit in the energy component. In our equations, they fit in the mass component. Are they energy or mass or something new? We don't know.
Considering
That's
mass,
why I'm saying this is a
considering mass and energy are effectively the same things.
Yeah, that's what's confusing about it.
I mean, the best way I think if you want to visualize dark energy right now is a pan of boiling water and something trying to go down, and it's constantly keeping it up, and we lost Jenny.
Oh, we lost Jenny. She'll be back. Yeah, I mean, there are possible, as far as dark energy goes. There's possibly things to do with the nature of space-time that we don't understand that actually could be the effect.
so it may not be an energy in and of itself. So, and that actually could relate to most of what we perceive as dark matter too. It could be a nature of the universe, a function of the way that space time works.
In fact, it's unlikely now to be that, based on the evidence we have got.
For dark matter, it is unlikely. For dark energy, not so much.
I mean, 20 years ago. 20 years ago. Thing fell off.
You okay there, Chad?
You still here? No.
Yeah.
20 years ago, dark matter could have been energy. It could have been a problem with the maths. It could have been lots of things. But once we started discovering galaxies that did not contain dark matter, we pretty much ruled that out. That it has to be something.
It has to be a something, yeah.
Probably, but still.
Yeah, well, dark energy is different to that. It's quite probable that dark energy is just a function of space-time itself.
Yeah.
Something that's incomplete in our equations and our understanding of the universe itself. It could just be a natural aspect of a young universe or a young pocket of a universe.
Wouldn't the EM drive work to propel a spaceship? If an EM drive actually works, sure.
But it doesn't.
No, they can't say that. We still haven't been ruled out.
Oh, you're talking about M drive is a resonant cavity, though.
Yeah.
Everything we know about physics says it shouldn't work.
Yeah. But again, there is this lovely line between quantum mechanics and general relativity and lower level. Well, we just do not know, and there just could be that little fraction of energy we could extract from somewhere. It almost certainly will not work, but we don't know everything.
We don't know everything. Yeah,
so we're going to test it to death.
Well, we kind of have been testing the M drives. So,
I know NASA didn't they? NASA stopped their research into that though, didn't they?
No. NASA are still researching one of the engines. I mean, they're not doing their own research; they're testing other people's engines. But the point is, there is an engine that is giving.
I thought they'd cancelled funding. They thought they'd had their funding cancelled for it.
Don't think their own stuff, yes, their own research, but the stuff they're testing, not so much. Right. The point is, it detected a force, a very, very small force, but the problem is it was within the margins of error. So
yeah, and that's the thing. Everything that we know about physics at the moment suggests that it shouldn't work. And if you're within your margin of error, I think at the moment the safe thing would be to say that you haven't proven it.
Yeah.
And it's something that's not proven, you're going to go, well, it probably doesn't work at that point. It may turn out in the future that there is something along the lines of resonant cavities that work, but it's unlikely. And I mean, with the claims that China, a certain university in China was trying to make about it, if that was true, I would have thought that the tests that NASA did would have actually shown something a bit more than what they actually got.
If it's true, in 5 years' time, there'll be satellites that are able to. That China will have satellites that are able to maneuver themselves. Apparently, without, and that's when we'll know it's true.
But in all honesty, the M drive is not even the problem. The problem with space travel for us is not the propulsion system. It's energy. Energy is our problem. If we mastered fusion, in the next 5-10 years, all those problems go away. Especially if we can make smaller reactors than a tokamak. You know, if you can get something down small enough, then you can have fusion-powered spacecraft, and you can have all that sort of, anything like that. You know, Vizimir propulsion for in space is absolutely brilliant. Yeah, is it Vizimir variable? It's a variable impulse engine, so it's an ion drive that's.
We lost Jenny.
You can change it. We've lost Jenny again. That you can vary the output rate. That.
I actually was going to ask a question, just something that was briefly mentioned there, and that is, do Do you think China's going to be like the leading nation with space exploration in a few years?
Unless America decides, or the EU decides to do something, yes.
Because I know there's been like the big talk about like the Artemis thing about like NASA going back to the moon. Look to the report, China is very much looking to put a man on the moon in the next decade.
The thing you've got with the moon, right, is what Jen just talked about now.
Yeah.
Right. We could have fission reactive spacecraft. I mean, we could put them now on Earth, but no one would let us launch them. There would be international outcry.
Fission, yeah. Yeah, fission ones
and
we
could
have,
build them on the moon, no problem whatsoever. Once we've got several hundred people living on the moon, building something like that on the moon and launching it from the moon,
piece of cake.
You've got. I mean, we can visit other stars in a lifetime if we can get up to half the speed of light, and half the speed of light is not a massive problem.
Well, no, getting to half the speed of light isn't the problem. It's if you hit something when you're going at that speed.
Again, you just need energy to fix that.
Yes, I agree with you.
Which was the arrays.
I mean, China. I mean,
Can't go to work.
China. I mean, China, so I understand, has got a whole like 4-phase plan for what they're doing with their lunar expedition. Obviously, they've got through like the orbital missions and so on with getting probes there. They're planning manned landings on the moon in the next decade, and eventually a lunar research station, which I'm guessing would be a bit more of a permanent thing. Although I don't know if it'd be permanently occupied. I don't know. I haven't read that much into it, but
depends on the shielding.
I think China is there. The way things are going, I think China is going to be the leader in space exploration.
Just wait, go on, Chad.
Back in 2016, they'd have colonies on the moon too, and that never came. So
no.
You got to be careful.
I'm not saying they will. This is the point. It's where it is.
China right now is doing something very interesting geopolitically. It's investing so much money in its tech, and because it has so much, because it's basically ripping off the states in terms of monetary trade. It is not to be a Trump.
Oh no, it is.
Oh yeah,
but because
it has done for years.
They have that right now. They're using that surplus wealth for naval development and space development, and primarily this is, in my opinion, to motivate secondary industries of those things. So basically, we want a space program. Therefore, we can justify the spending of, the development of a titanium alloy producing facility or something. It's more about that secondary facility that can then be retooled.
They still have. Would you say that China has done anything of its own that it has not got from elsewhere in regards to space travel?
It probably has, but it's like with any sort of thing. It's the kind of law of uneven and combined development here, Ruff, that you can take what other people have done, build on it, and do it better.
Entirely.
Yeah, which is what they've done. Which is what they have done. And it's like what
the point is, it costs. The amount of money that America has invested to get to where it's got is huge. I mean, the biggest problem America did is it gave all its tech, it gave all its money to the.
Now here's
who were rich.
Point, though. The investment made was the space program and the development of those secondary industries. It has that development. I mean, despite the fact those industries are suffering now, they still have wealth. I mean, it's a wealth generating program. So if you get an entire nation together to say we're going to do Project X, and everyone goes and then you do it, suddenly you have everybody doing something that they weren't going to do yesterday.
But the problem is you need to develop those industries for us to take our next step. We need to be looking at thousands of people in space.
Oh, I agree.
I think that we're not going to. I think we're going to be more likely to see the militarization of low Earth orbit, quite frankly. And I think that's going to lead to kind of a Cold War in terms of moon bases.
I think Tad's right.
The moon is going to be better than low Earth orbit. Keeping people in low Earth orbit is not.
I think it's going to be driven by private enterprise ultimately, because
I'm
not convinced. I'm not convinced on
well,
that.
I mean,
I think once we get out to stable asteroid, once we get out beyond a certain point, I think it is. The problem is, I think we've got a massive step to get there first. In the same way,
I agree with you there, but I mean, you've got to allow for the fact that you've already got various private companies working towards being able to do their own missions and being able to get out there. And then if you get to the point where you find a good resource on the moon that's going to be worth a lot of money. There are companies who would happily invest in getting their equipment up there to mine it or do whatever they needed to do to get it.
No. There's nothing on the moon worth anything.
As far as we know.
No, we know. Well,
that's not true.
There isn't going to be.
That's not true.
Hold on.
Not true. You have to kind of think of the Earth is still a liquid ball with a crust on it in space. I mean, it's basically like a water droplet in time of lava, right? So, if you're looking at the formation of the moon, on the Earth, a lot of the heavier elements were kind of brought to the center to give you that iron-rich core, and what it's all about.
Yes.
Well, basically, the moon was formed by striking the Earth and ripping off a big chunk of that. What that means is it has the same composition as the surface to mid-level Earth, which is potentially higher in concentration of metals.
Yes, but the point is, there's no way that
purely geological perspective.
We can mine on the moon exactly the same way as we do it here.
Yes, but the problem is doing it there costs more.
No, it does, but if you can... It comes down to a point of being able to justify those costs.
The justification of those costs are not going to happen to bring stuff back to Earth, back to our gravity well.
Bringing stuff back to our gravity well is easy. Getting stuff out of our gravity well is what's hard.
Really...
No, my point is it doesn't justify the cost. The cost of us digging down to our mantle to get access to this stuff is cheaper than doing it on the moon, and that's hard enough in its own right. But the point is that
then why have we gone to the moon and never drilled to the mantle?
Because we haven't needed to. Because it's the same reason with oil. The oil development is the perfect example of how humans work. The oil used to just come up to the surface. No one would ever drill for it. Why would you drill for it? That's expensive.
This is why perhaps I disagree with the whole that it's going to be private enterprise that drives this thing forward, and is because when it comes to private enterprise, of course it is hugely competitive, but it is also it is looking at profit loss ratio of this, and that is the risk reward. What is the profit loss risk reward factor for what they're doing? When it comes to pissing competitions between nations or whatever, if one side is able to militarize space or whatever, it compels the other side to spend money. That's the difference.
Let's look at something that would be economically viable now.
It will be. I mean, if China starts,
I want to point something out. Right, when I was talking about doing stuff from the moon is going to be very viable for space. If we get a low Earth orbit industry going, hotel stuff in low Earth orbit, okay, getting the resources for that from the moon, getting the resources to maintain that from the moon, that's going to be effective. But that's where it's going to become commercial. But doing anything commercial to bring it back to Earth, it's going to be cheaper to do it on Earth for the next several thousand years, probably.
No.
Hissy makes the point in chat. Says we've barely explored our oceans. Never mind our moon. It's easier to go to the moon than the oceans.
The deep oceans, anyway.
Yeah, to depths of our oceans.
You go to the moon. All you have to do is
what do you think we should mine on the moon? Other than helium-3.
I'll say this, though. I will say this about mining on the moon.
Sorry?
I will say this about mining on the moon. Because I said I will say this.
Guys, I'll be back in 2 minutes, okay?
Start again.
It requires a very different type of technology because the moon without tectonic movements and variation doesn't have the same kind of well, basically because it doesn't have volcanoes, it's the kind of deposit concentrations that we see here on Earth. You're more likely to see things kind of evenly distributed. So in terms of how to that, it's going to be very difficult to separate out the different elements, though you would be separating out a lot of very good elements. So there's also a huge technology problem there. It's not
you look okay.
It's a different technology.
No. You want a technology problem that we can start to solve now is the ocean. The minerals in the ocean, the gold, the precious metals that are dissolved in the ocean right now are considered too expensive to filter out. That's
actually. Let's make it a more meaningful problem and say carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. It's just a different compound in a different ocean. And
Fair enough.
Actually does matter a lot.
Yeah,
it does.
So I would say are really.
That's still just a power problem, though.
It is, right? And this is my point, right? And it's still cheaper to produce power down here than to mine something on the moon.
Yes.
And then we have an entire ocean of resources we can extract from. I mean, I was looking at the lithium concentration in the ocean, as being a problem.
One of the things you could mine and make money from on the moon is lithium.
No, I think it'd be cheaper to get it out of the ocean. That's the point. It's got to be cheaper than doing a slightly more expensive thing here.
I think that's yet to be settled.
Yeah.
Oh, entirely. My point is,
I mean, once you set up your mining operation, your cost of getting stuff back from the moon is really cheap.
Yes. I don't disagree with that. It's just not effective. It's not as cheap from getting it as doing it here right now.
Yeah, part of that is yes. Well, I will agree. I will agree with you in that, and that's got more to do with the launch systems that we have at the moment. Because what's expensive is getting out of our gravity well. Getting out of it, not back into it. Sending stuff back to Earth is freaking easy. Getting out of our gravity well is what's hard. The rocket equation is not in our favor.
That's true.
No.
Well, getting back into it right now is easy with the small loads that we're dealing with. The amount of material you would have to bring back to the moon to even begin to make it profitable has got to be a size or a physical size, at least the size of the entire Falcon 9, not just a damn capsule.
Getting stuff back within the Earth's gravity well is pretty easy. Ablative shielding is actually pretty simple to design and build. Getting stuff back into Earth's gravity well is simple.
No, I'm talking about getting the volume of materials back to make it profitable. Not the technology to get it in the atmosphere.
You can literally railgun it and shoot it at the Earth.
And it'll go in, It's not hard. Railguns. Back to what we were talking about earlier.
You can
What?
fire a rock right in.
Yeah, you don't even need a rocket.
Basically free up.
Getting stuff off the moon's easy.
Propulsion like rail.
Yeah.
I agree. All that part of it is easy. I'm talking about the volume of material necessary to make it profitable.
Yeah, again,
you're talking about
harder to mine it than to get it back.
Talking about stuff that's half the size of Mount Everest. You need to bring back here to make it profitable.
Yeah, but that's easy. That bit, bringing it back is easy. It is though. It is the railgun. It's tracks and an electric fucking motor with a load of solar panels. It can go around and around and around until you fire it off the moon. Right, but mining it on the moon is where the problem still lies.
Exactly. You get that volume out of the moon and here.
I kind of want to.
Getting it here isn't the problem. It's getting it here. You know what I'm saying?
But that, I mean, they're all problems that
it's not scalable. It's not scalable. How's that for an argument? Okay.
The mining problems are solvable.
Chad cuts out if anybody talks.
Yeah.
And Chad cuts out when no one talks.
Yeah.
We only get every second word from Chad, which is
hard. Sometimes we only get every second word. Sorry, Chad.
Okay. Oh, I was stepping on him and I didn't realize it, so I apologize.
Yeah, sorry, Chad.
No worries. I forgot what I was saying. Go on. I could probably just get off the stream. My internet's pretty bad, actually.
I was thinking of actually winding up the stream. We've been going for 2.5 hours. I will message you, Chad, about the one that's on Tuesday my time, so Monday night your time, and see if you want to get involved with that. Why don't we start with you, Chad? What have you got coming up?
Absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
I'm just sitting in my shed and having a smoke.
Sitting in your shed and having a smoke. Jeff, what have you got coming up?
Well, obviously tomorrow, myself and Hissy are doing the sort of season finale, I suppose, to our little Asterix series before we'll take a break for a little while before we start doing them again. But tomorrow's going to be a little bit of a different one. What we're doing is we're holding kind of like an open thing for people who are fans of fans of the Asterix books, or just been sort of fans of what we've been doing in general over the last few months. I mean, as I've realised is, they don't have a mass viewing. We don't have a mass audience, but the audience we got do seem to really like what we're doing.
Yeah.
So we're kind of holding an open one tomorrow, so people can come in, talk about their what do they like about the Asterix series, what are their favourite books, their favourite characters, that sort of thing, and having a talk about that. Now, I know myself and Hissy, I know Ring is coming in. Jen is hopefully going to come in.
No, I'll be there.
So if anyone is interested, anyone who's been watching us and is interested, hit myself or Hissy up. Let us know.
Cool. Awesome.
We're hoping Hops Watch possibly may join us, although he can't commit as of yet. So
it should be fun. So what have you got happening, Dave?
Dumb questions Monday.
Dumb questions on Monday. Monday, what time? Afternoon for you.
3 p.m. UK.
3 p.m.
10 a.m. EST.
Stupidly
Sunday.
late at night for me. Stupidly late at night. That's what it is. 11 p.m. for me, actually. Which isn't too far from when I started this stream. So yeah, it is what it is.
Nerdy to 24th.
Yeah. What have you got happening, Jenny?
Oh yeah, I'm on Ilya's show this afternoon.
Oh, cool! Awesome.
After around 3:30. I don't know why I'm on it. I forgot the topic. But
it's always interesting when you're on
so
Ilya's.
I know I'll be there.
Brilliant.
The good thing about that show, Jenny, is you don't necessarily need to know the topic going in. It's just watch some videos, and it's a lot of good fun, even if you don't really know the topic going in. But I can tell you that it's haunted hotels.
Oh well, okay.
So
Are you on it?
Yeah.
I don't believe in haunted hotels, but this will be fun then.
I gotta admit, I love it. Anytime they invite me to do the creepy show, I just love going on there because it is so much fun to do it.
All their streams are fun.
Yeah,
they are. Okay, well, I'll be on Jeff's show tomorrow with Hissy. Jeff and Hissy's show tomorrow. Sorry, Hissy. And Ring's show after that. And then, as I've said earlier, on Monday night in the US and Tuesday morning Australia, I'll be doing another one of these where I will have Matt, as in Not a Doctor, and Navadia, and hopefully Chad if he's available. And I think Sam's going to be joining us as well. And we're going to be doing a Stump Jen, but we're probably going to try and focus a bit on what we talk about in it, because we've got lots of people with lots of variant knowledges and stuff, so hopefully we can go down a few rabbit holes, because that's always fun.
What I need to get me some more of them knowledges.
Knowledges, yeah, lots of knowledges. I swear I speak English. Alright, thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you so much, Chad, for hopping in. It's been awesome. And I will catch everybody later. Bye!
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.